Samira Lewis, and you are listening to the Chatting in the City podcast. As I've always said before, this podcast is an initiative from the V-TRaC lab and also known as Vulnerability, Trauma, Resilience, and Culture Laboratory at the University of Ottawa to explore mental health in the Black community. The podcast is a part of a larger Beacon Hill project, which is funded by the Public Health Agency of Canada. Welcome everyone to another episode. We are glad that you are all enjoying all the other podcasts and episodes in the previous months. And as I always say, another month and another day to improve our mental health. If I did not mention this before, my colleague Leslie Zissou and I are the social mobilizers at the V-TRaC lab, and we're so excited to dive into today's topic, especially when we wrapped up our last episode on mental health of, the celebrities and the Black communities and etc., what it's like and how they often deal with that. However, in today's episodes, we're going to dive deeper into the realm of motherhood and talk a little bit about the mental health. So I'm going to let my colleague introduce our guest for today's podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks, Samira. So, everyone, Daphney is our speaker today. Daphney Attis Joseph is an administrative assistant at the National Research Council Canada. She has a great deal of experience in project and technical support, client relationship management, research and data entry, translation, and reporting, recordings management, and account management. She's a mother of two beautiful daughters. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Daphney Attis Joseph.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. So our first question for you is, what's the most rewarding and difficult thing about motherhood?
Well, definitely the most rewarding thing is just like seeing your kids, like you wake up in the morning and just their smile when they run up to you, when they say I love you, they give you the biggest hugs and everything. And that's like one of the most like rewarding things. Even hearing them cry like right now, it's tough. That's it's so nice to hear those little sounds and just knowing that you have those little humans that love you unconditionally. And when you go through pregnancy and when you give birth and then you hold them in your arms and you're just like, wow, like this being grew inside of me, like, like I did that. And so, yeah, like just like seeing them, it's definitely like, it's so rewarding, like the best gift of life. Definitely it does come with its challenges, of course, like you lose sleep. It's not all about you anymore. Everything, like it's about them. Like when you wake up in the morning, you would say like, I think of myself, but no, like you think of them, like you wake up when they wake up or as soon as they cry, you don't think of yourself of like eating first. It's like, no, I have to feed them first. Like everything, it's like they need to be taken care of first and foremost. So there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to do in terms of that. Like you can't just get up and go out anymore. You have to think of it's like, okay, somebody has to watch my kids, or you know what? No, I can't go out, or no, I have to go out with them. You have to plan all of that. So there's a lot of like, they become dependent on you. So you have your whole life revolves around them. So there's definitely a few challenges that comes with that. But like I said, you just look at them and it's all worth it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
I'm always so encouraged when you talk about that, because I know it's not everyone that you get to, I guess, I would say choose to always look on the bright side of things. And as you were speaking about how there has been just this shift of just personally your life, and as well as, with your family and other things, how they're more dependent on you, and how you have to basically make sure that everything is taken care of. I was thinking, as a mother in the Black community, how do you manage or balance out really like your mental health, and making sure that, okay, I need to make sure as well, like I'm doing okay so that I can be well for my children.
So definitely my best advice, like you need like a circle, you need a support system. And I didn't always get it right. Like my first pregnancy, when with all the hormones and everything, like you get super emotional. You do get sometimes into some dark places, even after birth, especially after birth with postpartum depression, which is something not everybody is, open to admit. It's like I went through that. But I feel like it's a normal thing. It's okay to go through that. And I did go through that. There are many moments when, with my firstborn, where I would be sitting down and you just have tears coming down of your eyes, and you wonder if you're doing everything right. And then again, you look at them, you're like, no, like she needs me, like I'm doing this right, like she loves me, and everything. And what I've learned is that it's always like good to have somebody to talk to. Like you're going to find somebody that can either relate, somebody that's going to be able to give you that shoulder to cry on, to give you that support, to give you that advice. And I was so happy that in my community, I was able to find people like that, whether it was friends or family, people that would just like always give you that, like that encouragement, that support, and everything. So like there's many times where I was down, and I was told, it's like, listen, just get up, put some makeup on your face and be happy and stuff. Or like, you know what, the kid matters first, everything else comes second. So I was so happy to have like those people, like, around me. And when it came to my second, obviously, like it was a little bit better because I went through that first experience. So now again, still having that support, and then having like, my husband, who again went through that experience with me and has a better understanding on how things, like, because we went through it the first time and now we're going through it the second time. So, I'm blessed that he was there as well, and we were able to go through this together, and stuff. So definitely, what I would strongly advise, again, just having that circle. Just even like when you're pregnant, try to find those people in advance to ask them to be around you, just in case you get into a dark place or you're super down. Just that way they can come and encourage you, support you, and just have a wellness check like with you. Because sometimes as a mom, with all the hormones, you're tired, so many things are going on. Sometimes your mind doesn't really think like about taking care of yourself. So that's why it's good to have other people to be like your eyes on the outside. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I know you kind of mentioned postpartum depression, and that there are still a lot of stigmas today, I personally feel like, around it, and people are not really encouraged or don't feel comfortable to talk about it. And it's the same thing with, for example, even breastfeeding in public, and it's very stigmatized still today. So it's kind of like linked to our next question, which is, as we pay attention to all the narratives that we see in society that often portrays regarding mothers and motherhood, do you ever feel or ever felt pressured by these standards?
Oh, definitely. I won't lie, especially with the world of social media, and you see like what motherhood looks like on social media. And then you just think it's like, oh, that's going to be me, or that's going to be my experience. And you learn very quickly, it's like, no, that cannot be my experience, because you don't have the same life as those social media influencers. They don't have maybe the same support system as you. They don't have the same social status as you. And so I feel like you can't help but look at this. You're like, and imagining like this could be you. You're going to do this, and you keep hearing, especially like these new ways of parenting. It's like, no, this is how you're supposed to do. No, this old way of parenting is not good. Like all of this, it does put a lot of pressure. But what I've learned is that, listen, as long as my kid is fed, loved, sleeps, healthy, that's all that matters, because nobody can parent like me. You have to do what works for you. And it's okay to feel that pressure, because you can't control how you feel. But then you always have to remind yourself, it's like, listen, you're the mom, you know your kids best. So you do what you feel is right. Because listen, if you're going to listen or pay attention to everything social media says about motherhood and parenting, you're going to feel like you're not doing your job. But that is so not the case. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you mentioned social medias, because I personally feel like there are so many different like instances where people will even judge the way people are educating their own kids where you're not there. So it's a bit funny when you see all the comments and they're like giving advice when you don't know that person. And like, and I always find it very weird. So I don't know if that happened, or if you had instances where that happened, but for you, when negative situation arise, how do you personally cope with the reality, and maybe that it's not what you imagine at the first place? Because I know that, I mean, for me, I don't have any kids, and I know that sometimes people can like idolize motherhood, and then when you have kids, it's not necessarily what you imagine. So that was the question. How do you cope with that reality? That is,
I guess, like in my case, it's like how I coped with it was through reflection and prayer, to be honest, because like I'm very really spiritual person, and I always like go to prayer, and I tell myself like this happened because God wanted it this way. Like, because again, like during my first pregnancy, again, through social media and what you see, you're like, okay, this is how pregnancy is. These are the symptoms I'm going to have. These are the cravings I'm going to have. And this is how I'm going to deal with it. This is going to be my birth plan. I'm going to have the baby shower. I'm going to have like everything. That was not the case. Like, actually, like in my case, like my kids are both born prematurely, so I did not do the whole like 9 months. I did not have the maternity shoots that I wanted because they came early. I didn't have like for my first one, we didn't have like that baby shower, you show up all pretty with the belly and everything. Like I didn't have like all of that. But like for me, at the end of the day, when I look back, I'm like, you know what? This was my own individual pregnancy experience, like for both cases, and it belongs to me. Like I shouldn't have to compare myself to other mothers to say this is exactly how my experience should be, because no, like everybody is supposed to have their own experience. Everybody's health, body, it's all different. So that's how I like was able to kind of like deal and manage that. It's just like going back and thinking, it's like my pregnancy experiences are unique to me, and that's what makes them so special. And that's exactly what I'm going to tell my kids when they grow up, when they ask me about like their birthing stories and everything. At least I'll know that they're special stories, and they'll be able to like, you know, to tell the world, and you know, it'll be special to them.
Yeah, I really appreciate that perspective, how instead of, looking to see how can I fit into, being this mother of that's on social media that clearly, like you mentioned, doesn't have the same context as I am, doesn't have the same support system, doesn't have the same, access to resources and stuff like that. How do I shift, my perspective and seeing that, okay, no, like this is my personal birth and pregnancy story and motherhood story, and that's how it's gonna be, and just focusing on, okay, like how can this situation get better, not to necessarily, okay, I want to replicate what I see on social media, but how do I focus on my situation? I think that's a good perspective. One thing that I didn't mention is, and that I was thinking about, is throughout the pandemic, how did for you that motherhood has changed versus how it was before? Was there any was the process of transitioning to the pandemic with motherhood and everything, how was that process? Was it difficult? Was it not as bad as you thought it would have been, regarding like that process and stuff?
Definitely the pandemic like changed a lot of things because my first pregnancy was not during a pandemic. So in a way, you had like more freedom to do things. My husband was able to be more present into like the ultrasound appointments and everything, like, going shopping for these little things, like you were able to do that. And then when I got pregnant for the second time, and it was during the pandemic, didn't have all of that freedom. My husband was not able to be at any of my appointments. And so he missed out on all of these ultrasounds. So he was only able to experience it through the pictures that I would come back home with. Like, that's it. I wasn't able to, hang out with friends or just be able, again, like sometimes you just want to talk, hang with friends, just like to, uh, like in French, to changer les idées, because it's a lot of pressure. Because at that time, I had also, because of the pandemic, I had like lost my job. So then you learn that you're pregnant, you lose your job. So you have all of this happening. So then again, from a financial standpoint, like during a pandemic, we have to think about that. But I'm so happy that like my husband said, don't worry about it. It's like, I got you. So he supported all of us during that time. Another thing the pandemic like took away, of course, I couldn't have like, an in-person baby shower. So it had to be like virtual. I couldn't just, go, especially when things were closed down and you were told to stay at home. So it's not like I could go see family like that again, just to have a fun time, just to relax a little bit. Giving birth too, there's all of these rules, like you can't have visitors. And again, because my baby was born prematurely, she had to stay in the hospital. So I had to stay in the hospital. So spending that whole week with no visitors, you're by yourself. So it got pretty lonely and stuff. Again, I'm still blessed that I have a healthy baby, but definitely with this pandemic, like it definitely made me have lots of alone time that I did not expect to have compared to my first one when you had that physical support. But I'm here, I'm blessed. We got through it and baby's here and she's all healthy and super hyper and everything. So at least there's that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think again, like, I think one thing is to think about how there will always be some type of like challenges in terms of reflection to always reevaluate and stuff like that. And so I think just having a more open mindset, because the pandemic happened, no one could have predicted such things. Other things will happen in your life that you can't necessarily predict, but having the open mindset that, okay, yes, this happened to me, but how are we going to go about this? One other thing is, I know in the United States, as well as even in the UK, there's a little bit more research done into that. And I know, as well as in the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, states this also, that in the United States, Black women are 3 times more likely to die from childbirth, and as well as Black infants are 2 times more likely to die before their first birthday. And they mentioned that they often suffer from, the Black women, they often suffer from a lack of access to medical care that can result into a lot more, and just combating multiple mental health challenges. Now, in our context in Canada, there's not that much research that's done into that area, let alone talking about the mental health of mothers in our community. But while listening to or reading a report about it, Vic Adopia, which is the senior reporter with the health unit at the CBC News Reports, was talking a little bit about the myths and challenges, kind of what you were mentioning, with the stigmas and stuff like that. He was stating that a Toronto-based midwife, Shani Robinson, said that there's a myth really that Black women experience less pain than white women. And I just wanted to know, Just a little bit of your thoughts on that, because you did mention about, your birth experience and your pregnancy and, pre uh, pre-pandemic and during the pandemic as well. If you had ever experienced such tragedy where there was a lot of stigmas, just regarding, like, you yourself as a Black woman, that, oh, okay, well, you're a Black woman, you don't need to, get any like type of epidural or anything to alleviate the pain and stuff like that. Since it does happen, just because the research is not done in Canada does not mean those stories are not a reality.
Yeah. So me, personally, so it was during my second pregnancy, because I did hear about this whole like myth. It's like, for some reason, Black women, we tolerate more pain. I mean, maybe, but that shouldn't be. I think in the medical field, they shouldn't use that as like a scale to decide whether a Black woman should get a certain type of medication or not for the pain, because a woman like knows what she feels, and you should listen to her. So me, during like my second pregnancy, so again, like, ended up at the hospital again prematurely and everything. And obviously with your second child, like the labor is like faster. So the pain like went from like 0 to 100 real quick. And I could just like feel the pain. Like I thought I could tough it out, because you try to tough it out, but I couldn't. I'm not Superwoman, not like that. So I did ask the nurse for if I could get the epidural, because in my case, I didn't have time to do a birth plan with my OBGYN, because again, it was premature. So we didn't have time to get to that point. So I asked if I could get the epidural, and didn't. At the time, it's like, I remember she was like, no, we can wait. Like, the doctor prefers when we wait like a certain, like something. But I was just like feeling like the pain. And I knew if I missed that threshold, like, I wouldn't have been able to get the epidural at all. So I just kept asking and asking. So then it took another nurse to come in, and I'm like, let me ask her. And I'm like, can I please have the epidural? Because I remember for my first, the epidural did not go through completely. At the end of the day, I just gave birth like that. It kind of helped because I could feel like, the contraction. So it helped. But it's not the most pleasurable pain ever. Even if you give, it's the most wonderful thing once you give birth, but it's not the most pleasurable thing. So then I asked that nurse if I could get the epidural, and she said yes, like no questions. I didn't have to fight for it. And then we go through the process and everything. But by the time that they gave it to me, to be honest, like, I had to push like barely like 30 or 45 minutes later, because I was resting and I was still feeling a lot of pressure, and I thought that the epidural was not working. What actually happened is just like all that pressure was the baby ready to come out. So then I just remember, I don't know if it was a nurse or a doctor that says, well, thank God you took the epidural when you did, because the baby's ready to come out. And it's just like, what if I had completely ignored that? Like, I could have missed that window completely. So for me, sometimes you try to look back, but you're just like, why did the first nurse took it upon herself to say like, no, the doctor sometimes wants to wait or anything? It's like, I'm telling you that I'm feeling so much pain right now. Like, I went through this before. It's like why? And I just hope that there's other women, like, they can find that voice. Like, if you feel like something's not right, if you feel pain, like, you have to speak for yourself. And that's something that I mentioned to my husband as well, if ever I am blessed to have another child. And because you keep hearing these stories, especially in the States, of women dying during birth when they didn't need to die, I tell him, it's like, please advocate for me. If ever I'm in a condition I cannot talk, I'm passed out or something, please advocate for me. Because if we're not careful, I'm not saying that all doctors are bad. You have some wonderful doctors out there. I have an amazing OBGYN. But what happens if you fall on that one nurse, that one doctor who kind of like, no, it's okay, you're fine, and doesn't actually listen to you, and then something bad happens? Some things can't be reversed. So that's why I strongly encourage like women, especially Black women, if you feel that something is wrong, speak up, say something, like fight for it, ask your support system to fight for it, because again, you know your body more than anybody else. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like, I mean, I know every mother's story is different and the experiences are also different. I know for my mom, she had 3 children. I have 2 siblings, don't know what's the best way to put it. But I know she absolutely loved her experience, but I've heard other stories about people having only one child and say, that's it, that's the only child I have. I had a terrible experience. I'm never doing it again. So I know it's a bit different for everyone, but I know when we look at the research, as you mentioned, Samira, I know there are still today a lot of biases and conscious biases, still a little bit stigma, as you mentioned, about Black women, and they have a thicker skin, for example, or they tolerate pain more. So I think it's really important to kind of demystify that, as you said, to have a more inclusive and equal healthcare system.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really touched by that testimony, that especially when you mentioned there's some things that cannot be reversed. And I really hope that like other doctors, nurses, and other, just people in general can realize that this is really like a life and death situation, and that there should be more an importance towards listening to the person that, like you mentioned, that's dealing with it. It's the person that's dealing with it, going through the difficulty, feeling all the emotions, all the pain, and all the contraction and stuff like that. And I think like it is such a miss in our healthcare system, especially for our community, that that's even a thing to even just to think about. And that's the reality. Yeah. Wow. Lots and more progress. But before we conclude everything, I know you were mentioning about just making sure, and you're encouraging other women, other mothers, to continue to advocate, to speak up for themselves. But did you have any other words of encouragement you wanted to give young women in general, mothers out there that are listening, throughout, whether regarding mental health or pregnancy or anything that you feel in your heart?
For me, is that just like motherhood in general, it's a beautiful thing. And if you're called out to be a mother, whether through adoption or natural birth or any other types of way to have children, just know that sure, you'll have moments that are not always easy. There's moments that you're going to feel tired. You're going to feel that you're not doing a good job. You're going to feel that you're the worst mother in the world. And you can have those frustrating moments, but just know that you're not alone. Thank God, there's so many groups out there. And I've discovered, whether it's on social media platforms or in person, there's so many support groups out there. And then you have also your friends and family. Do not hesitate to reach out for help, whether it's just to talk, whether you just want to have somebody watch your kid for an hour just so you can take care of yourself. That's okay. Just don't hesitate to speak out, because I feel a lot, we mothers, we say, no, it's my kid, it's my job, I decided this, and then you want to take out everything yourself. But it's okay to ask for help. Me, I don't hesitate to ask my husband for help when I can. Yes, there's some things that I prefer doing, but there are times I'm just listen, I just need a moment for myself. Can you please watch your kids, please? Please, just so I can just pamper myself, just so I can go out, read a book, just so I can eat or something. It's okay. You don't have to do everything by yourself. There's always somebody out there to help you, support you. And if ever you are going through postpartum depression, do not hesitate to reach out to your OBGYN, or your family doctor, because they also have resources for you, because they want to make sure that you're okay. as well. And listen, and it's okay not to be okay. Like, listen, like I said before, like I've cried, I went to some dark places, after birth, because it's a lot to go through. But again, I'm so happy and blessed that I had people around me to talk to and to support me. And that's why I'm encouraging everybody to have a support system like during these times, because that's what's going to help you pull through. Truly believe it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm not a mother yet, and I felt encouraged by that. So thank you. Thank you so much for those wise words. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for listening to our podcast today. And I want to also thank my colleague Leslie as well for being there as well, and our honorable guest, Daphney Attis Joseph, for taking the time to share her personal experience. And it's not easy. It's not easy being vulnerable like that and authentic. So I really want to thank you for that. And just in general, thank you so much, everyone. Take care and have a great day. See you next time.